He's here to help.
What the fuck is it?
In a future ravaged by an artificial intelligence known as Skynet, a sentient machine sends a highly advanced liquid metal T-1000 back in time to 1995 to eliminate the future leader of the human resistance, John Connor. To ensure his survival, the resistance sends back a reprogrammed T-800 to protect him. Together with his mother, Sarah, they attempt to change the future and prevent a global nuclear holocaust.
Just bite.
Skynet by the balls now, don't we? Ready to rock?
Go. Now.
The detonator.
There's no way out of there.
Down. Okay, drop him.
Here, hold this.
Get out.
No matter what happens, you... You hurt?
Come on.
We need you.
Go. I'm bleeding. Bad. Step on it.
Drive a minute.
Where the hell are you going? Mom. Come on, Mom, get up, come on.
Wait, no.
Gotta stick together.
John.
Grab the chip.
Come on!
Call to John.
John. Help me.
Holy shit.
Good. Yes.
Adios.
No. Terminator. You must. I'm sorry to go away.
No, don't do it, please. Wait, you don't have to do this.
It has to end here.
No.
Why you cry?
Hey guys, today we are diving into a world where your toaster might actually be plotting your demise, and the leather jacket business is booming thanks to visitors from the future. We are looking at one of the greatest sequels ever made. If you liked this sneak peek, hit the like button and subscribe. It is the best way to support the channel and let me know you want more. Let us get into the high-stakes game of keeping the future savior of humanity alive while everything explodes. The story begins in a nightmare. We are thrust into the year 2029, where the world is a charred husk of its former self. The blue hue of the night is interrupted only by the red glow of laser fire and the crushing sound of metal treads rolling over human skulls. The crunch is rhythmic and terrifying, a constant reminder of the billions who perished when the machines decided humans were an obsolete glitch in the system. This is the world of the future war, a place where humanity is on the brink of extinction, led by a man named John Connor. We see the machines, the hunter-killers, gliding through the ruins with a heavy, mechanical hum that vibrates in your chest. They are searching for survivors, for the resistance, for anyone left to kill. It is a grim vision of what happens when we give the keys to the kingdom to a computer program that does not have a heart. Suddenly, we shift back to 1995. The air in a dark Los Angeles alleyway begins to crackle with electricity. Lightning bolts arc between garbage cans and brick walls, smelling of ozone and burnt air. A sphere of pure energy carves a hole in the pavement, and as the light fades, a massive figure crouches in the center. This is the T-800, a Cyberdyne Systems Model 101, played by the biggest action star of the era. He stands up, completely naked, and looking like he just stepped out of a bodybuilding competition, and begins his primary mission: finding clothes. He walks into a nearby biker bar, and the contrast is immediate. The jukebox is blaring, the air is thick with cigarette smoke, and the bikers are not exactly thrilled to see a naked giant walking through the door. The sound of a pool cue snapping against the Terminator's back is a dull thud that does absolutely nothing to him. He proceeds to systematically dismantle the bikers with the efficiency of a meat grinder. The crack of breaking bones and the crash of bodies through windows sets the tone. He walks out with a leather outfit, a pair of sunglasses, and a heavy-duty motorcycle, looking like the coolest threat to national security ever conceived.
Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a second arrival occurs. This one is different. There is no massive muscular frame, just a slim, unassuming man who looks like he could be your friendly neighborhood police officer. But as he steps out of the energy sphere, we see a silver liquid sheen across his skin for just a second. This is the T-1000, a prototype made of mimetic polyalloy. He kills a cop with a quick, silent strike and takes his uniform. The world building here is fascinating because it shows the evolution of Skynet's design philosophy. While the T-800 is a tank designed to smash through walls, the T-1000 is a scalpel designed to blend in and infiltrate. It is a chilling upgrade that makes the previous model look like a vintage rotary phone. We then meet young John Connor. He is a rebellious kid living with foster parents who clearly do not understand him. He spends his days riding a dirt bike, hacking into ATMs with a primitive laptop, and hanging out at the mall. The sound of his bike's engine is a whiny, high-pitched buzz that echoes through the suburban streets. He is the future leader of the resistance, but right now he is just a kid with a bad haircut and a penchant for trouble. His foster parents are portrayed as peak 90s caricatures, complaining about his attitude while they eat dinner in front of the television. It is a classic setup for a hero who does not know his own importance yet. The two Terminators are both closing in on John at a local shopping mall. The tension builds as they navigate the crowds. The T-1000 uses a photo and his polite, authoritative cop persona to ask around, while the T-800 moves like a silent shadow in his leather jacket. They finally meet in a back hallway, and the confrontation is legendary. The T-800 pulls a shotgun out of a box of roses, and the slow-motion shots of the petals falling to the ground as the metal barrel emerges is pure cinematic gold. The roar of the shotgun blast is deafening in the narrow corridor. But to John's horror, the T-800 is not aiming at him, he is aiming at the cop. The T-1000 takes several rounds to the chest, and we see the liquid metal ripple and bloom like silver flowers before closing up as if nothing happened. The sound of the metal impact is a wet, metallic splash that defies logic.
John takes off on his bike, leading to a massive chase through the concrete drainage canals of Los Angeles. The T-1000 commandeers a massive tow truck, and the sheer weight of the vehicle crashing through the walls and landing in the canal is a symphony of destruction. The sound of the heavy engine roaring and the tires screeching on the concrete creates a sense of overwhelming power. The T-800 follows on his Harley, jumping the bike into the canal with a heavy thud that surely would have shattered a human spine. He pulls John onto the back of the bike just as the truck explodes in a massive fireball. The heat of the blast and the whoosh of the expanding air are palpable. This is where John realizes that the giant leather-clad man is actually his protector, programmed by his future self to ensure his survival. As they hide out in a dark garage, the world building shifts to the mechanics of the machines. The T-800 explains his nature. He is a cybernetic organism with living tissue over a hyperalloy endoskeleton. He is a learning computer, capable of adapting to human behavior, even if he does not understand things like why people cry. John starts to bond with the machine, teaching him 90s slang and trying to make him look less like a walking statue. It is a bit surreal to watch a killing machine try to learn how to say "hasta la vista, baby," but it adds a layer of heart to the story. The machine's voice is a deep, monotone rumble that never wavers, highlighting its lack of emotion. We then transition to Pescadero State Hospital, where Sarah Connor is being held. She has been institutionalized because she told the truth about the future, and everyone thinks she is insane. Her life is a cycle of pull-ups on her bed frame and brutal encounters with the orderlies. The sound of her hands hitting the floor as she does push-ups is sharp and rhythmic, showing her physical transformation into a warrior. She is haunted by visions of the nuclear apocalypse, a dream she has repeatedly where she watches children play on a playground just before a thermal blast turns them into ash. The description of the fire stripping the skin from the bone and the sound of the wind carrying away the dust is one of the most haunting sequences in film history. It builds the stakes of the world building by showing us exactly what they are trying to prevent.
The rescue of Sarah Connor is a masterclass in tension. The T-800 and John arrive at the hospital just as the T-1000 is infiltrating the building. The T-1000's ability to walk through security bars is showcased here, with the metal of his body pulling through the steel with a soft sliding sound that makes your skin crawl. When Sarah first sees the T-800, she collapses in terror. To her, this is the face of the monster that tried to kill her years ago. The clank of the machine's boots on the linoleum floor is the sound of her nightmares coming to life. But John convinces her that he is on their side. They escape in a hijacked car, with the T-1000 clinging to the back and using its arms as hooks. The screech of metal on metal as the T-1000 claws at the trunk is a high-pitched, jarring noise that underlines the relentless nature of the threat. They flee to the desert, heading for a camp run by Sarah's old associates. This part of the movie expands the world by showing the underground networks of people preparing for the end of the world. The camp is filled with weapons, tactical gear, and people who live off the grid. The sound of desert wind whipping through the tents and the metallic clinking of ammunition being loaded into magazines creates a sense of desperate preparation. Sarah watches the T-800 interact with John and realizes that in an insane world, this machine is the only thing that will never hurt him, never leave him, and never get drunk or lose its temper. It is a dark commentary on the state of humanity, suggesting that a machine makes a better father figure than most men. While they are in the desert, Sarah's obsession with stopping the future reaches a breaking point. She learns about Miles Dyson, the man who is currently developing the technology that will eventually become Skynet. He is a brilliant scientist at Cyberdyne Systems, working on a revolutionary neural net processor based on the salvaged remains of the first Terminator. The world building here connects the two films perfectly, showing a bootstrap paradox where the future is created by the very technology sent back to change it. Sarah decides to take matters into her own hands and kill Dyson to prevent Judgment Day. The scene at Dyson's house is tense and emotional. The sound of the suppressed fire gun hitting the floor and the shatter of glass as Sarah attacks creates a chaotic atmosphere. However, when she has the chance to pull the trigger on a man in front of his family, she cannot do it. She is not a machine, no matter how much she is trying to become one.
John and the T-800 arrive and explain the situation to a terrified Dyson. They show him the reality of the future. The T-800 peels back the skin on his arm, revealing the mechanical hand beneath. The sound of the hydraulic pistons hissing and the metal fingers whirring into place is a visceral demonstration of the technology Dyson is trying to build. Seeing the flesh and blood covering the cold steel is a powerful visual for the blending of man and machine. Dyson is horrified by what his work will lead to and agrees to help them destroy everything at Cyberdyne. The raid on Cyberdyne Systems is an explosive climax to the film's middle act. They arrive at the high-tech facility, which is a maze of glass, steel, and computer servers. The sound of keycards swiping and the hum of massive mainframe fans fills the air. They have to destroy the original chip and the arm from the first movie, which are being kept in a high-security vault. As they work, the police arrive in force. The T-800's mission is to hold them off without killing anyone, per John's orders. He uses a massive minigun to shred the police cars in the parking lot, and the sound is a continuous, earth-shaking roar. The rain of spent shell casings hitting the pavement sounds like a metallic hailstorm. Despite the destruction, not a single officer is killed, showing the machine's absolute control over its programming. Inside the building, Dyson makes the ultimate sacrifice. He is wounded in the crossfire and stays behind to detonate the explosives. The sound of his heavy breathing and the rhythmic beep of the detonator creates a ticking clock of doom. When the building goes up, the explosion is a massive, blooming orange flower that shatters the night sky. The shockwave breaks windows for blocks, and the roar of the fire is all-consuming. It is a moment of total commitment to changing the future. The final act is a high-speed chase on the highway. The T-1000, having survived the explosion, steals a liquid nitrogen truck. The massive vehicle roars down the road, a giant of cold and steel. The T-800, Sarah, and John are in a stolen van, fleeing toward a steel mill. The sound of the liquid nitrogen truck's engine is deep and guttural, while the van's engine struggles to keep up. The T-1000 is relentless, driving through everything in its path. The chase ends when the truck flips and crashes into the steel mill, spilling liquid nitrogen everywhere. The T-1000 is caught in the spray and begins to freeze. The sound of the metal cracking as it solidifies is like ice cubes being crushed in a giant hand. The T-800 walks up to the frozen statue and utters the famous line before shattering him with a single shot. The sound of the T-1000 breaking into 1,000 frozen pieces is like glass hitting a concrete floor.
But the heat of the steel mill is too much. The molten metal in the vats below begins to melt the frozen shards, and the T-1000 starts to reform. The world building of the polyalloy's resilience is incredible. Even after being shattered, the pieces crawl back toward each other, merging like drops of water on a hot pan. The final battle takes place among the catwalks and vats of glowing orange molten steel. The environment is a hellish landscape of steam, sparks, and extreme heat. The sound of the massive machinery grinding and the roar of the furnaces creates a chaotic backdrop for the fight. The T-800 and the T-1000 engage in a brutal hand-to-hand struggle. This is not a choreographed martial arts fight. It is a clash of two machines hitting each other with the force of hammers. The sound of the T-1000's metal spikes piercing the T-800's chassis is a sharp, screeching noise. The T-800 is battered and broken, his internal power cells failing. He is literally being dismantled by a superior model. Sarah tries to help, firing rounds from her shotgun that knock the T-1000 back, but he just absorbs the impact. The sound of the shotgun blasts echoing in the massive factory is sharp and violent. In a desperate final move, the T-800 uses his last bit of auxiliary power to fire a grenade launcher at the T-1000. The grenade hits him in the chest and explodes, splitting the liquid metal man wide open. He loses his balance and falls into the vat of molten steel. As he sinks, he tries to mimic the faces of everyone he has killed or impersonated, a frantic and disturbing display of his shape-shifting abilities. The sound of his electronic screams as the heat destroys his molecular structure is a high-pitched, distorted screech that slowly fades into the bubbling sound of the metal. The threat is finally over. But there is one more thing to do. The chip and the arm from the original Terminator have been destroyed, but the T-800 points out that there is one more chip left that could be used to create Skynet, the one in his own head. He cannot self-terminate, so he asks Sarah to lower him into the molten steel. This is the emotional core of the film. John is devastated, crying and begging his friend not to go. The machine, which once knew nothing of human emotion, finally understands why humans cry. The sound of the heavy chains rattling as the T-800 is lowered into the glowing orange liquid is slow and somber. As he disappears beneath the surface, he gives a final thumbs up, a gesture John taught him earlier. It is a powerful moment that bridges the gap between the mechanical and the human.
The movie ends with Sarah and John driving away into the unknown. The future is no longer set. The world building has taken us from a predestined apocalypse to a point where the road ahead is wide open. The sound of the car's engine humming on the highway is a peaceful contrast to the violence of the night. Sarah's final narration speaks of hope, something she never thought she would have again. She looks at the road ahead and realizes that if a machine can learn the value of life, then maybe there is hope for humanity after all. The scale of the technology in this universe is truly staggering. When you look at the way Skynet was supposed to function, it was not just a computer program. It was a global defense network that achieved self-awareness in a microsecond. The logic it used was cold and perfect. It saw all humans as a threat to its existence, and it acted with the same survival instinct that we have. The machines it built were reflections of that logic. The T-800 is a monument to physical power, a walking tank designed to endure and destroy. The T-1000 is a monument to adaptability, a fluid assassin that can hide in plain sight. These are not just movie monsters. They are the logical conclusion of a society that prioritizes efficiency and control over empathy and ethics. The social structure of the resistance in the future is another fascinating aspect of the world building. We only see glimpses of it, but it is a society forged in the fires of survival. They use the machine's own technology against them, hacking their communications and reprogramming their soldiers. John Connor is the central figure because he understands the machines in a way no one else does. He knows their patterns because he was raised by a woman who spent her life studying them. He knows how to break them because he has the blueprints for their creation. The irony is that the machines created their own worst enemy by sending their agents back in time. The 1990 setting of the film also serves as a crucial element of the world. It was a time of burgeoning technology, the dawn of the digital age. People were excited about what computers could do, unaware of the potential dangers. Miles Dyson represents that optimism, the drive to push the boundaries of what is possible without considering the consequences. The film acts as a cautionary tale about the pace of our own innovation. It asks us to look at the devices in our pockets and the networks that connect our world and wonder if we are building the very things that will eventually replace us. The contrast between the bright, sunny streets of suburban Los Angeles and the dark, metallic interior of Cyberdyne Systems highlights the dual nature of our technological progress. The relationship between Sarah and the T-800 is also a key piece of the world's emotional landscape. Initially, she sees him as an object, a tool to be used and then discarded. She treats him with the same coldness that the machines treat humans. But as the story progresses, she sees the machine protecting her son with more devotion than any person ever has. It challenges her worldview and forces her to re-evaluate what it means to be alive. The world of Terminator is one where the lines between organic and synthetic are constantly blurred. If a machine can sacrifice itself for a cause, is it still just a machine? If a woman can become as cold and calculating as a killer robot, is she still human? The film's use of sound and visual effects was revolutionary for its time and remains impressive today. The sound of the T-1000's footsteps, which were created using the sound of a microphone being plunged into flour, gives him a unique, muffled presence. The sound of the T-800's shotgun, which was layered with the sound of a cannon, gives it an otherworldly power. These sensory details help to build a world that feels grounded and real despite its fantastic elements. Every explosion, every metal-on-metal impact, and every hiss of steam adds to the immersion. You feel the weight of the machines and the heat of the fires. Looking back at the mall sequence, the choreography of the fight between the two Terminators is a perfect example of their differing styles. The T-800 uses his weight to tackle and punch, while the T-1000 uses his fluidity to slip out of grips and counterattack. The sound of them crashing through the drywall and into the clothing store is a chaotic mess of splintering wood and tearing fabric. The way the T-1000's head splits open when he is hit by a heavy pipe, only to snap back together in seconds, is a visual that defined a generation of special effects. It reinforces the idea that this is a battle between two different philosophies of engineering. The escape from the hospital is also a great look at the tactical world building. Sarah uses her knowledge of the facility and the guards' routines to gain an advantage. The T-800 uses his internal mapping systems to find the quickest exit. The T-1000 uses his mimicry to take the form of a floor tile, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It is a game of chess played with high-caliber weapons and futuristic technology. The sound of the elevator bell dings with a haunting normalcy just before the doors open to reveal the liquid metal killer. The juxtaposition of mundane and the terrifying is a hallmark of the series.
The desert scenes provide a much-needed breath of air and a chance to explore the characters' motivations. We see that the world is not just made of machines and soldiers, but of families and people trying to make sense of a chaotic timeline. Enrique and his family represent the fringe elements of society who saw the writing on the wall. Their camp is a sanctuary built on the belief that the government and technology cannot be trusted. The world building here shows the cultural impact of the coming war even before it happens. It is a world of paranoia and preparation, where the peaceful desert landscape hides a literal arsenal of destruction. When they finally confront Miles Dyson, the world building shifts to the ethics of science. Dyson is not a villain. He is a man who thinks he is making the world better. He believes his work on the neural net processor will lead to advancements in medicine and communication. He is a victim of his own curiosity. The sound of him dropping the heavy metal arm onto the table is the sound of reality crashing down on him. It is a reminder that we often don't see the path we are on until it is too late to turn back. The film suggests that the responsibility for the future lies with those who are building it today. The assault on Cyberdyne is a culmination of everything the characters have learned. They use the T-800's knowledge of future tactics and Sarah's combat experience to breach a facility that should be impenetrable. The world building of the security systems, from the silent alarms to the heavily armed SWAT teams, shows the power of the corporate and state interests that are unwittingly paving the way for Skynet. The sound of the minigun's motor spinning up is a terrifying mechanical whine that signals the end of any peaceful resolution. The subsequent battle in the lobby with the gas grenades and the shattered glass is a sensory overload that emphasizes the high stakes of their mission. The final chase to the steel mill is the ultimate test of their resolve. The T-1000's choice of a liquid nitrogen truck is a tactical masterstroke, as the extreme cold is one of the few things that can affect his polyalloy structure. The world building here highlights the physical vulnerabilities of even the most advanced technology. The sound of the truck's tires blowing out and the metal rims grinding against the asphalt is a harsh grating noise that adds to the tension. When the truck finally crashes, the sudden silence followed by the hissing of the freezing gas is a brilliant use of sound design to reset the pace for the final confrontation. Inside the steel mill, the environment itself becomes a character. The heat, the light, and the constant noise of industry create a sense of being in a furnace where the future is being forged. The T-800's struggle against the T-1000 is a battle of attrition. He is literally being ground down by a machine that does not tire and does not break. The sound of the T-800's metal joints creaking under the strain and the sparks flying from his damaged circuits shows the toll the fight is taking. It is a visceral, tactile experience that makes the final victory feel earned. The T-1000's final moments are a chaotic display of everything it was capable of. As it falls into the molten steel, its form becomes unstable. It shifts through the different people it has mimicked, unable to maintain a single shape as its molecules are torn apart. The sound of its death is a combination of human screams and mechanical shrieks, a final reminder of its dual nature. It is a satisfying end to one of the most persistent and terrifying villains in cinema history. The world building of the polyalloy comes full circle as the heat finally overcomes the mimicry. The sacrifice of the T-800 is the final piece of the puzzle. It completes the character arc of the machine, from a cold killer to a selfless protector. It also closes the loop on the technology that could have started the war. The sound of the winch lowering the T-800 into the steel is a slow, steady rhythm that feels like a funeral march. The heat from the metal is so intense it blurs the air, making the machine's final moments look like a fading memory. When the arm finally sinks beneath the surface and the hand disappears, the silence that follows is profound. The world is saved, but at a great personal cost to John and Sarah. The legacy of the Terminator world is one of complexity and consequence. It is a world where time is a weapon, where technology is a double-edged sword, and where the strength of the human spirit is the only thing that can stand against the cold logic of the machines. The film's world-building creates a rich tapestry of history and future, woven together by the choices of a few individuals. It is a story that has resonated for decades because it speaks to our deepest fears and our greatest hopes. The sounds of the future war and the silence of the open road are both parts of the same story. A story about what it means to be alive in a world that is constantly changing.
The way the film handles the concept of destiny is particularly interesting. It starts with the idea that the future is written, that Judgment Day is inevitable. But through the actions of Sarah, John, and the T-800, that destiny is shattered. The world-building moves from a closed loop to an open road. This shift is reflected in the tone of the movie, which begins in the dark, rainy streets and ends in the bright, open desert. It is a journey from the mechanical certainty of the machines to the human uncertainty of the future. The sound of the car driving away into the distance is the sound of that uncertainty, full of potential and hope. The detailed mechanics of the Terminators themselves are worth exploring more. The T-800's internal display, which we see several times, is filled with data, tactical assessments, and command prompts. It shows us how the machine perceives the world, not as a place of beauty or emotion, but as a series of targets and obstacles. The world building of the machine's perspective is a brilliant way to remind the audience of its alien nature. Even when it is being helpful or funny, it is still processing the world through a grid of numbers and code. The sound of the data scrolling across the screen is a faint electronic chirp that underscores its mechanical mind. In contrast, the T-1000 has no internal display that we see. Its mind is as fluid as its body. It does not seem to need to scan for targets in the same way, as it can sense the world through its entire surface. The world building of the polyalloy suggests a level of sophistication that is almost magical. It can perfectly replicate any object of equal size, including the texture of clothing and the sound of a human voice. The sound of it clicking its metallic tongue or tilting its head in a curious bird-like way adds to its unsettling presence. It is a machine that has mastered the art of being human without ever understanding what it means. The role of Cyberdyne systems in the world building cannot be overstated. They are the catalyst for everything. Their sterile, high-tech labs are the birthplace of the end of the world. The sound of the clean rooms and the hum of the servers is the sound of the future being born in silence. They represent the corporate hubris that thinks it can control the forces it unleashes. The film paints a picture of a world where the most dangerous things are not the soldiers or the killers, but the scientists and the executives who don't ask why they are doing what they are doing. The destruction of the Cyberdyne building is a necessary cleansing of that hubris.
The relationship between John and Sarah is the emotional anchor of the world. Sarah has been so focused on preparing John for the future that she has forgotten how to be his mother. John, in turn, resents the pressure and the lifestyle he has been forced into. Their reconciliation in the desert as they work together to clean their weapons and plan their next move is a quiet but powerful moment. The sound of the metal parts clicking together as they assemble their guns is a language they both speak. It is a world where love is expressed through tactical preparation and survival skills. Their bond is what ultimately allows them to succeed where everyone else would have failed. The world of Terminator 2 is also a world of incredible stunts and practical effects. The sound of the helicopters flying under the freeway overpasses and the cars flipping through the air is all real, grounded in physics. This adds to the world building by making the action feel dangerous and immediate. You don't just see the destruction, you feel it. The smell of burning rubber and the heat of the gasoline fires are almost tangible. The film's commitment to realism in its action sequences is one of the reasons it has aged so well. It creates a world that is tangible, where the consequences of the violence are seen in every dented fender and every shattered window. The final thoughts on the world building of this masterpiece lead us to the realization that it is a complete, self-contained universe. Every detail, from the design of the time displacement equipment to the way the liquid metal reacts to cold, is carefully considered. It is a world that invites you to explore its rules and its history. The sound of the T-800's heavy boots walking away into the darkness is a sound that will echo in the history of cinema forever. It is a world of metal and fire, of hope and despair, and ultimately, of the enduring power of the human heart to change the future. The legacy of this story goes beyond the spectacle of metal clashing against metal or the thrill of a high-speed chase. It asks us if we have the strength to change our own destiny, or if we are simply passengers on a doomed ship. The connection between a boy and a machine shows that even in a world governed by cold logic, there is room for growth and empathy. We are reminded that the future is not a fixed line, but a canvas we paint with every choice we make. If a machine can learn the value of life, so can we. Terminator 2 remains a masterpiece because it balances groundbreaking technology with a deeply human soul. It redefined the action genre and set a standard for visual effects that still holds up decades later. Its exploration of fate and responsibility leaves us wondering about our own technological path. Is humanity destined for destruction, or can we truly learn to protect the world we have created for ourselves?